So coming soon listings, not my favorite, but they're out there. Agents do them for whatever reason. Let's talk about coming soon listings a little bit. You may market a listing in the coming soon status to any consumer, whether they are existing clients of the brokerage or not, by using flyers, for sale signs, social media posts, etc., so long as the marketing clearly labels the listing as coming soon. So yes, you can put up a yard sign, and yes, you can put flyers out there, and you can post on your social media that it's coming soon, but you have to state that it's coming soon. You can't just say, hey, new listing hitting the market. You have to use the words coming soon if you're going to do that. And on your sign, if you're putting up a yard sign and the listing's not going live, in active status for a week or 2 weeks or whatever, you have to put that little coming soon rider on there in order to be compliant. What you cannot do is you may not conduct showings or open houses. So you could put all that stuff up there, but you can't do either one of those. Marketing and advertising include, but are not limited to, any information about the property or its availability for sale displayed on signs, websites, social media, brokerage or franchise operated websites, communications, either verbal or written, multi-brokerage or franchise listing sharing networks, those are out there, flyers or written material, applications available to the public, open houses or showings, which you may not do when the home is in coming soon status. So no one can show coming soon listings to anyone under any circumstances. This includes, but is not limited to, virtual open houses and virtual showings. If you plan to show a property in coming soon status, you must update the listing to active or active under contract prior to the showing date. So basically, once you're showing it, you have to allow everybody to show it at that point. And they're stating that you have to put in active status before you go and show it. You can advertise an open house for a coming soon listing and disclose the date on which the property will be available for showings. However, you may not show the property prior to the date disclosed unless you update the listing to active status, again, prior to the showing date. You have to remember that MLS tracks everything that we do in MLS. So should a complaint arise, probably stemming from a fellow realtor out there, that maybe they didn't get a fair shot, you showed the property and then didn't allow them to see it as well, would be an example of a complaint. The MLS can go in there and say, okay, well, you didn't change it to active status until 9/17, and you showed it over the weekend on 9/16, and so that would be a violation. And it would just take the other agent to make that complaint. So be careful with your coming soon listings. Yes, you can market them, you can do the whole shebang, just no showings, no open houses, or you have to make it active prior. I'm including a link here for common violations that do not require warning. We could take a look at those real quick if you want. I do have the page pulled up. So this is from CRMLS, and I chose CRMLS because they have a lot of coverage in California. But again, a lot of MLSs have very similar practices. And so these are basically instant fines. So you can see that some of these are really hefty. Failure to input listing in MLS or register the property. That could be anywhere from $500 to $2,500. All listings must be entered in MLS or registered in the MLS within 2 days of the effective list date. After 2 days have passed, there is no way to correct the violation. Failure to update, change listing information. We have some kind of smaller fines here. Failure to obtain seller's authorization to list in the MLS, $1,500 fine. Showing of a coming soon or hold listing, $500 to $2,500. So if you get caught showing that coming soon listing, they can fine you anywhere from 500 to 2,500, and that might be based on, past violations you've had and things like that, or how serious it was. Failure to be present when providing access to a listed property to potential buyers, potential buyers. So that would be, hey, you know, the listing is on combo box, and you tell your buyer to just go ahead and go check it out. Here's the combo. That's a big fine, $1,500. And they might even suspend your MLS access. So don't do that kind of stuff. These are also, some pretty big fines, and these are automatic. These are no warning. If you do it, you're getting the fine, and to get out of the fine is slim to none chances. Um, Unauthorized reproduction of display in media. So we've actually had a couple agents catch this fine where they used the previous agent's MLS photos. You definitely don't ever want to do that. In one of the cases, they actually got this reversed because the photos were actually the seller's photos that they had provided to the agent, both agents, both times. So I believe they got that one reduced or waived, but don't, you always use your own photos. And if you have a seller saying, hey, I have photos, they're trying to save, they're grinding you down on commission or something. And they're like, well, what if I give you my own photos? And you need to know where those photos came from, who took those photos, and do they have a right to send them to you for use in the MLS? Because you could be the one catching that fine, so they're not going to find the seller, they're going to find you. Use of media without prior written authorization, that's 1,500. Unauthorized advertisement of listing of another broker. We just went over that. So be sure to get that in writing. That's a $1,500 fine, automatic fine. Unauthorized use of MLS information, unauthorized distribution of MLS information and passcodes. So I recommend maybe taking a look through some of these, see if you've done any in the past. Hopefully you're not doing any in the future, just so you know what the potential fine is for some of this stuff, because some of these are pretty big and these are automatic fines again. So let's go back over to presentation. Just thought I'd share that a little bit. I recommend also going to your MLS's Q&A page, compliance page, they all have them in different sections, and see what the fines are, and see what the violations are, and make sure that you're compliant all the way through. Okay, so a little bit of risk management. So here's some common mistakes agents make out of haste because they made a mistake and want to save face, or just a general desire to take shortcuts that leave them and their clients vulnerable to a post-closing claim. This, I mean, we've all heard get it in writing, but we're probably all guilty of it where, you're having the conversation, you're like, okay, like I feel like I can trust what this person is saying, and you don't get that conversation in writing and agreed to. That can happen quite a bit, and it leads to post-closing claims. So it's essential to get all important information in writing to avoid he said, she said situations in a court of law trying to argue that you acted appropriately. All offers and acceptances, contract amendments and addendums, personal property items that have been agreed upon to convey, directions from your clients and other information need to be in writing and signed by each party themselves. For personal property items, barbecues, swing sets, vases, pots, all that stuff, couches that are going to be left behind. It's best to write down all the items that are to convey with a short description if needed, blue plastic plant pots on the patio, 4 red bar stools in the kitchen, etc. And have both parties sign the document to acknowledge. we had a scenario come up recently where they're like, well, they're leaving a lot of stuff. Do I have to list it all? Well, maybe you want to go in a reverse on that and state what is being excluded from conveying. So maybe the homeowner is leaving everything except for, personal items such as their clothing and bed sheets or something like that. Maybe it's easier to state what the exclusions will be onto what is being left in the home. That's another way to approach it if there's a lot of items. To take a step further, pictures of the items attached to the document will help ensure clarity if a disagreement or dispute arises about which items were agreed upon to convey. If you discuss a SIP, a seller in possession, get it in writing while negotiating the price and terms. Spell out the length, the amount of per diem, as well as if there will be a deposit held. And the deposit held is where I see probably the most post-closing disputes, or right before closing, actually, not even post-closing, where everybody's agreed that the seller can stay in the home for 7 days free of charge, no per diem. Okay, we've all agreed to that. It's in the counter offer, but there's no SIP. And then it's getting to the closing date and the buyers are like, well, what if they start kind of freaking out? Well, what if they don't leave? Or what if they leave the place in a bad condition, or all these things? And all of a sudden now they want a deposit. And the seller's like, well, we didn't agree to a deposit. And I don't want to pay a deposit. So that's where things start to get sticky because we didn't address this up front. And those are probably the things that need to be addressed the most, those three things. How long is it for? What's the cost? And is there a deposit? If you're covering those, you're probably not going to have a post-closing or even just a snag to getting to closing with an SIP. So be sure you address that stuff in the beginning with the SIP. Just don't put it in a counteroffer that, oh, seller can stay in the property for 5 days and then that's it, because there's going to be questions later. If you happen to discuss something important with your client or the co-op agent over the phone or via video chat, follow up shortly with a recap of the conversation to ensure there's a written record. This is an important follow-up method to avoid memory lapses or word twisting. Additionally, if you send a recap following the conversation and the other party does not reply with clarifications or rebuttals, it can be deemed in a court of law that the other party was in agreement with the statements made in the recap. So you have the conversation and you talk about some points, make some notes of it as you're talking about the points. Send a follow-up email and just say, hey, per our conversation, this is what we talked about, this, and list them out, email it over, and make sure it goes to the designated email address that's on the RPA or the listing agreement. And if they're just like received or okay, great, thanks, or something like that, then it's deemed that they're in agreement with what you just said, if they don't rebut anything that you said there. So now you have a paper trail. So keep that in mind when you're talking verbally through negotiations and things like that. I see this happen from time to time, signing of documents during a divorce or when someone is sick. We had a shortcut example that led to a contract cancellation. Spouses should not sign for each other, but is especially crucial in a divorce sale. Each owner should sign their own documents through their own email account or in person. So when you're running your stuff through DocuSign or whatever signing service you're using, and one of the owners says, oh, just send both of them to my email, don't do that, because you can't be sure that the other party is actually receiving and agreeing to what you're saying and signing. So get a separate email address for each of them and have each of them sign the documents that you're sending them through those separate email accounts. When you have knowledge of a divorce or when someone isn't able to sign due to being sick, Do not send documents to the spouse's account for signing or have the spouse sign on their behalf. And we had a listing actually canceled because of that, where the wife was sick, she had the flu, whatever, and the agent sent the document to the husband for both of them to sign, and basically made it voidable. And the wife, it was a separation. They weren't getting a divorce, but there was a lot going on there. And we had to cancel the listing because the wife was in disagreement. And she started saying that she didn't sign the documents. And after I kind of dug into it a little bit, that's what happened. And so we had to cancel that listing. So and they had a valid reason. So don't do that. Have each party sign their own. You can never assume all owners are in agreement with everything that is happening, or that they won't use this above scenario to try and back out of an agreement, purchase or listing or lease or anything.